Jonathan just said something that really got me thinking. I think it was Edward in the chat. He was like, "Look, when I hit this level, I'm going to buy the espresso machine, right?" Well, I have the espresso machine, but I thought about it because I've kind of been against a beach house. I've just heard all the horror stories of people who made it big, bought the beach house, and then the insurance in life, and it just now they're 70s and bankrupt. But back to Edward real quick. He was talking about it, and I think that was the same day I was on the beach and I was walking, and of course, some of them are just completely gaudy and unnecessary. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to hire the maid to clean that. I don't want to have to clean that. It's just too much stuff. But anyways, I thought about it. Like, what's the point in all of this? And I decided once I have multiple eight figures, the liquid eight figures, then I'll buy the beach house. That'll be what I'll do. If I have multiple eight figures in liquid assets, that means it has to be cash. Then I'll buy a beach house. Otherwise, no. Because I love beach. I love being there. It feels like happiness. It feels like joy. It's beautiful.
You're right on that. Like the environment that you're in means like so much. Like if you're just buying like real estate for personal reasons, that like you're buying it because you want to spend on it, just like when you're spending for a car or something that's not a physical asset. But your main point is really good, that having so many assets that when you do buy that, it doesn't affect you. And that's sort of too how you stay out of that red race. Because a lot of people, when they get, their raises at their job or whatever, their lifestyle changes and you stay continually having to work to pay for all those expenses of the new lifestyle. Whereas where you don't feel it, even if it's taken away or something was to change, life happens. It's not going to affect what you got going on.
That you'd be surprised some of the people who made it big. I mean, they were lawyers for the mafia. I'm talking big, big things. These are people who make six and seven figures monthly. Okay. And you'll find out, wait, they're turning 50 and 60, and maybe a health crisis happened, or life happened, or spouse, right? Just being real. And they lost everything. And now they're not just to the point where, hey, you fell from high and you went down a few levels. This is you hit the clouds and now you're depending on $1,300. That is catastrophic. I mean, psychologically, mentally, and emotionally, to go from you blow $1,300 on accident because you don't look at prices when you go to the store, to you are living your life on $1,300. And when you hear those stories, you're like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to do what they did, because you just never know. So, I mean, again, I have enough assets, but for me, I don't value enough the risque life. The stuff that happens when you do that, oh, it's catastrophic, guys. You buy one of those beach houses, in some cases, I'm talking the real beach houses, the ones that are multiple millions of dollars. Remember, the insurance on that is, 5 grand a month easy. Yeah. The upkeep is also that much because the sand, right? The rust, because there's other factors. The rust over there too, and I don't know, like, different parts of the country if they experience the same things, but the rust is awful. So you see these people, they buy it, then all this stuff happens, the house deteriorates anyway, so it's pretty much trash. Anything metal and or wire is destroyed because water. And then you've got the insurance, you've got all these elements. It's like, am I willing to spend $10 million and know that it might literally be nothing and or less than nothing? That's a
That's a
lot.
good point. I wanted to ask you and Scott too, while you brought that point up, is what are your thoughts on renting versus owning, even if you are, financially good? I think that's sort of been a lot of things that some people have, especially some influencers or financial influencers, have put out the value of actually renting and having that flexibility and not worrying about all the additional charges and things that come with home ownership. What are some of your thoughts on that and long view and benefits, negatives, et cetera?
Actually, I would have been, the more you know, right? The you grow. Hopefully I'm learning better. I would have been adamantly against renting 5 years ago. If you had asked me 10 years ago. I didn't rent really my entire adult life until I moved. Now, given the state of interest rates, given the expense of things right now, given homeowners insurance and a whole host of other factors, you've got these communities. And notice I didn't just say house, I said community, where you'll get the gym, this, the that, the services in some cases, the lawn care in some cases. There's even like condo-esque environments where they have meals. Like, you'd be surprised. And it's not like a retirement home by any means. This is just a community, right? A community where they have the events, they have the services, they have the staff, they have all of it. The pools, the clubhouses, the business meetups, the rooms, the halls, where you get access to it all for renting. And is it a little more expensive than owning? Yeah, but you also don't have the backlash of the fact that the furnace is now $300 or $3,000 where it used to be, 900. You don't
So my
have
sister sold her house in Austin, Texas for a significant profit. And she moved to Hudson, New York, and is renting a luxury apartment there that Her payment is less than her house in Austin, and she loves it there. And the amenities idea, I mean, they have a theater inside of the complex, and they've got movie nights and all sorts of things, and she loves living there.
It's lifestyle. So if you can afford the lifestyle, and again, depending on whether you have kids and other factors, I mean, I'm more into owning stuff, but now I own enough stuff that if I want to rent and just, for example, live in Italy or go do an upstage house in New York for a while and just live that way, it's the lifestyle.
What about the other aspect of it? If you're like maybe you're starting new, like you're trying to sort of, I guess, build wealth. You're not struggling, but let's say you're looking at home ownership, but then potentially with home ownership, you'd have to come out with a down payment, et cetera. And then, of course, over time, if things do happen to break down, those would be unexpected expenses that you'd have to account for. But as opposed, like, let's say you take the approach of renting and then doing something else with that money that you would have normally had to put in to actually getting into a new home and invest in it, being more proactive into doing that. Like I actually saw something the other day. Now, this was a very risky. It worked out into their favor. I don't think this is always going to be the case. And, I probably wouldn't advise that going all in because it was pretty much they pretty much were gambling, but there was a family, I believe, that they sold their household and went all into Bitcoin and, that worked out for the benefit of them. But a more normal way as far as looking at it is like, let's say you're going to put 20,000 down on the home. Instead, you go ahead and you rent. And then that difference that you may have been paying and all those different fees and the mortgages, if you can still manage that and then you contribute, like, let's say an additional thousand that you save because of renting each month into assets, wouldn't that be an advantageous option?
Well, wait, let's talk money. No, money, we can talk about. This I get good at. So right now the interest rates are what, 5, 6%? I mean, if your credit is perfect, it's higher. If it's not, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's somewhere along those lines. I think it's still in sixes, right? Uh, Somebody quote me if I'm wrong. The interest rate on the money out is 6%. They just passed a law. I don't know how this is going to come down or when it's going to come down that the sellers and buyer's agent are no longer allowed to collect 6%. So that's another big factor too when buying and owning. So if we did the math of title, closing fees, and remember, I buy houses. I do that already. Into this year, I'm not talking about 5 years ago, different market 5 years ago, but this year. And I know that geographically, this might not be the case for all states. I think it's the case for many states right now. So I know that your area might be a little different. I'm just putting all the disclaimers out. But in general, in this environment, in most of the states across America, I think you're better off renting for the next 12 to 24 months, given the interest rates are high. What you can earn even on USDC is 6% in, right? So now you have to do the opportunity cost, right? So you put $2,000 a month into, or whatever your rent is, into this per month for X amount of months. That's also what you lost. But mind you, of that $2,000 a month that you would have been paying to your mortgage, only what, two or 300 of it, probably less with these insurance rates or these interest rates are going to actually be going to the house. So the actual cost, the loss there is only like two or $300 a month. The amount you earn in the next 12 to 24 months is bigger than the amount you will have lost or earned or saved had you bought in this environment. In most cases, geographically, I know there are some areas that are still on the low side, but right now market is high. We need that little bit of a pullback for real. Right now,
A
interest
lot
rates
depends
are
on where you are.
true, true. There are areas where that's not the case. Again, when I came to one of the reasons why I decided to rent was I didn't know I wanted to stay, and B, I had just left the top of the market or what I thought was close to the top of the market. I didn't know I was walking into the low of the market at the time. So geographically, this may be different. There are obviously areas that's not the case. But if you do dollar for dollar, $2,500 a month mortgage at a 6% interest rate, two or three plus homeowners insurance, whatever that other mortgage insurance and everything else, figure 300 of that, and I'm doing round numbers here, is actually going to principal, right? Do the math of what you would earn now taking that same $30,000 investment and investing it. And I'm just talking in this market. So for me, these next 12 to 24 months, if you don't currently own, yeah, I would say fine. Do you experiment life, experiment areas, experiment communities, and go live a little bit, take that and do something big with it. And I'm not talking the stock market. I think that's a very unstable place right now. Do the math though. Don't listen to me. Like your math is going to differ in your area. You might be surprised to find out that in this market, in certain parts of North Carolina, definite parts of California, although that's coming down a little bit. A lot of the bigger parts around the country, that's the case. Where I think dollar for dollar, you would probably make money by not owning, at least in this period. Plus, losing that 6% buyers and sellers commission thing is going to be huge. I don't know when and how that will take effect and what the other alternative is going to be either, though. So that could be more detrimental or better. So,
I wonder how real estate agents are going to get paid. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get shaken out. It might be they don't do percentages, they do flat fees. Could be all sorts of things. And the flat fee might be more than the percentage.
true. Very true.
Well, that is going to all depend on how much your house is worth that you're wanting to buy or sell. It costs time and money for an agent to sell a house or to help a buyer buy a house. And they're incentivized by percentages right now in selling or pricing houses higher. If it's flat fees, it needs to be priced enough to pay for whatever they need to pay for because that's their living.
I know real estate agents who make a $500,000 a year and they work very few hours.
Yep, if they're working with expensive properties.
Yep. Yep.
And the listing agents, if you've been working long enough that you get a lot of referrals and you can list a lot of houses, that's when you really make money as a real estate agent. If you're starting out and you're helping first time buyers buy a house, you'll spend weeks with them looking at houses and get paid for, get paid your commission on a small house buy.
Just something to think about. But would I say like sell your house and go all in? I mean, you guys have gotten to know me pretty well. I value some sense of stability. And I know in many ways that has kept me grounded. And in other ways, it has definitely held me back in some ways. But I like the peace of mind to say, wait, this part of my life is completely stable and untouchable. And I'm good here. So would I necessarily sell my house to go do something like that? I mean, no. In some areas, would I sell it? Yeah.
But
Uh,
it's timing. It's all timing.
yeah.
Is what is the general market doing? How much can you make? Are you selling your house at the bottom of the market to buy into assets that are at the top of the market? You know, there's lots of ways to lose on that, as well as lots of ways to win. But it still remains that home ownership, especially for people starting to get on the ladder of their financial lives, home ownership opens a lot of doors that aren't open to you easily otherwise.
Yeah, and then the other factor is renting is different than it used to be. Like in a lot of areas, they require 3 times the rent in documentable income, and you know things like what we do is not as traceable, trackable. Like a lot of them don't count crypto payments and things like that. So
Yeah,
there are
trying to
other,
buy a house as a self-employed person is hard.
yeah, there are other factors too. There are more than one. Not only that, they raise rent like crazy. True,
And
true.
you think about people that are renting houses, they are buying houses and they are paying what you would pay if you were buying the house yourself. Actually, they're probably paying more because, Jenny can probably speak to this, but commercial real estate loans are more expensive and have to be paid off over shorter periods of time than one buying into a house that you're going to live in.
True, very true.
And so the rent still needs to pay for the upkeep as well as servicing the freight of the financing.
What is what we're seeing so much. I remember going to that. I paid a small fortune for that. I won't even tell you guys how much I paid for that seminar. And their advice was the stupidest thing in the world. They were pushing the heavy commercial real estate.
Yep.
And again, I'm not the expert. This is not my area of expertise. I am not the voice of authority. But even the way they did the numbers, it was obviously sales pitchy, but it was lacking information. It didn't track. And given the nature of where we were at, no, horrible idea. And we're seeing that across America with the commercial real estate, which is going to impact a lot in time. In time, it will. And we already know lumber and in post COVID, all that stuff is going to continue to impact. So at the end of the day, I'm still very biased on owning. Like Scott said, I think even just one, even just one, there's a value there. And if you don't want to own for yourself, own it to rent it out. Okay. And build your portfolio, build a little bit. It's not about making quote cash at the end of the month. You're building your retirement, you're building your safe place, you're building your assets to where now when you go to the bank, you have ground to stand on.
Oh,
You've
yeah,
got
you think about it. If you are otherwise gainfully employed and you have your basic living costs taken care of, if you start buying property and you rent it out, you take that cash flow, you pay down your initial loan until you've got enough equity that you can take out another loan. And you just keep building it up. You're not taking money out of it. You're building the portfolio instead. And by the time you're done, it's going to be worth a hell of a lot of money. And at the point that you stop growing it, all that cash flow comes in to you.
Yeah. And that's her retirement. And it's a different kind of savings. It's a different kind of life insurance. It's one you pass on. It's not bad.
Thanks for the very good points. I think sort of what I take out of that though is that the buying of or the purchasing of a home can be very valuable if you're proactive and you leverage the opportunities that come with doing that. However, most people who are purchasing a home are just purchasing a home because of the American dream and like the stability. You feel better like knowing that, hey, I've purchased a home. In certain cases, that's an expectation sometimes that's put on people that I haven't arrived or I haven't made it until I purchased a home. But then at the same time, if you purchase a home that's more than what you can afford, which is a very huge case, especially for a lot of Americans, then you sort of put yourself in the hole. Or if the housing market takes a turn and something happens, whether it be with your job career wise and you have to get out of that, where that could sort of leave you in a precarious situation. So I guess, like, again, you have to take all those things into account. And you also, when you do purchase the home, especially if you're not going to be proactive and using it as an asset and trying to leverage that, making sure that you don't overextend yourself.
Yeah, you see an awful lot of that when real estate markets are booming. People figure they can't go wrong by buying a house, doing a little bit of work and flipping it. And that works until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you can be stuck with a huge problem.
That true. I don't think this is the market to be buying and flipping.
No.
It's the money isn't there unless you're paying cash.
Well, you can find markets where it might work,
Yeah, true.
but you can't be tied to your own area and be thinking like that, and you never know when the market is going to turn. And the big problem with flipping is the people that do very, very cosmetic things. And, like they'll put a backsplash on in a kitchen and call it done.
Just stuff to think about. Honestly, I love this conversation. I can't wait. I want to hear what your guys' next level up level purchase is, big or small, because that's what we're here for. It's just, and it doesn't have to be pie in the sky. Please don't be house poor. That's a stupid way to live. You want a reduce your monthly nut concept, right? And believe it or not, I'm a firm advocate that it's easier to make more money than it is to skim your budget. I know I probably shouldn't say, but it's much easier to go out and increase your income than it is to cut down the utility bill and your grocery budget, especially now given groceries. It's easier to go make an extra couple hundred than it is to save the couple hundred. So if we start focusing on that, how can we make the, and yes, please know what you're spending, know what your budget is. And let's get you from where you're at now to maybe your Bentley. This one's a Bentley, right? Yeah. This one's pretty. And listen, the purple has me sold. Okay. The purple's got me. The purple got me. Okay. I'm telling you. I love it.